There's the real war unfolding here in the Middle East, and then there's what's unfolding on social media across millions of screens in every part of the world, from dark memes and hilarious humor to AI-generated misinformation and influencer dramas. Today, we are unpacking your online conversation, and we ask how we process what we see on our socials. I'm Stefanie Dekker, and welcome to the stream. We are going to get straight into our discussion with Mahfuz Talukder. He's a geopolitical analyst who is recognized on TikTok as News Baba. He is joining us from London. And we have Saad Alessa, a comedian and political satirist of Kuwaiti and Palestinian heritage. And he is joining us from Los Angeles in California. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here on the stream. Mahfuz, I want to start with you. I was deep diving on your TikTok content. You said 5% chance of World War III. That was your call. I'm going to stick to that and run with it. I want to ask you, why did you choose to do, I'm holding you to it. Why did you choose to do the kind of content that you do, which is pretty much humorous analysis of the geopolitical situation, right? And why do you think it's resonating with so many people?
Thanks, Stephanie, for having me on. It's a pleasure to be on here. I would say why I do what I do. First of all, I read a lot. And I think what people need at this point in time is analysis and analysts rather than activists. We have loads of activists, which is great for pushing causes in the short and midterm. But without analysis, you're going to struggle to understand. And I think there's a gap between the common citizenry, which I consider myself a part of. I'm not I'm not an analyst who's academically, professionally in the space. My expertise is actually elsewhere in cybersecurity and biomedical science. But I realized that what I'm reading and understanding, because I've spent over a decade reading the news from various sources, I thought the majority of the citizenry, they want to know, but they don't have the time. They don't have the willingness a lot of the time to understand. So I wanted to come into that space and help people understand. And the special sauce that I bring, of course, I would say is two things. I say I'm conveying the news and the analysis without the Western spin. But in terms of my analysis, I try to be unbiased and more fact-driven than rhetoric-driven.
Absolutely. Saad, before we go to you, and I think it's interesting, Mahfuz, that you said that you read a lot and you've been reading a lot, which is where you get, because your content is informed, right? And Saad, I was reading about you, history and politics, also very much a passion of yours. I want to play a clip before we get to you. Millennials and Gen Z are known to use dark humor as a coping mechanism. Now, these people have seen a lot of unprecedented crises in their lifetime, so the solution often is more memes. Now, here are some of the viral videos about the war. Saad, I shared one of your reels, which was about the most dangerous place right now in the Middle East being on the Arab family WhatsApp chat group. I've covered the Middle East for 20 years, so I'm not Arab, but I kind of half feel it, and I totally got where you meant. It was hilarious. Tell me, what is it that you're trying to achieve with this humor? What does it give to us in a time that is so uncertain? And what does it give to you, I guess?
First of all, thank you so much for having me on, Stephanie. As a stand-up comic, I always believed that my television debut would be Comedy Central or Netflix, but being half Palestinian, should have known it's Al Jazeera. So I want to thank you guys for giving us a platform. But more so, to answer your question, humor is a way to enter others that don't want to be a part of the discussion. So the way I see it is satire is the way journalism is for those who are not invited into the room. And I think a joke can travel further when people are resisting the conversation, or some people can't stomach the news. So I think humor basically packages things in a way that is more digestible for the people that aren't interested or resist the political conversation.
Mahfuz, I see you nodding, Mahfuz. Some people will say that, people are dying. There's real horrors being inflicted on families, on, civilians across the region. But others will tell you humor has always been a coping mechanism, right? What would be your response? Mahfuz, I'll put this to you. What will be your response to someone who says, you know what, it's not the time for humor?
Yeah. So my response is quite simple. If people are dying and a crisis is unfolding and you feel strongly about it and you want more people to know about it so that it's not just happening while the world looks on, then you should be on the side of people utilizing humor to bring that topic to the spotlight. Because as my fellow guest Saad has mentioned, it's sarcasm, it's humor that brings more people into the conversation. And I would add to that, I would say people have an emotional capacity for ingesting information. After a while, if it's too, depressing, if it's too dry, then they're going to disconnect for their own mental health or well-being or their own sanity. What humor, at least what I'm trying to do for myself, to be honest, first and foremost, but for others as well, what humor allows you to do is allows you to continue tracking, monitoring situations that are important to you without going insane, without falling into a state of depression, for example, because it's the humor's continuously resetting that emotional capacity that you have, making it light and more digestible, as Saad says. So I would disagree with that assessment. Things are happening, people are dying, they're going to keep dying whether or not you plug in and watch or whether you plug off or plug out. So better to plug in, and if humor helps you stay plugged in without losing your own mind,
it's such an important,
is doing his job.
I think you described it so well, especially, if you've been in conflict, or I've covered conflicts, humor is there. Even in the middle of a war zone, we would laugh. And I think people who are on the outside of that sometimes don't quite understand that coping mechanism. Saad, you work on the online world. What kind of divisions are you seeing in people, in the online conversation? Are you seeing polarizations? Are you seeing people coming together? Like, what would you say are some of the main trends, conversations that you're seeing happening in this conflict now?
I think to add to Mahfouz's point, if you don't mind, I think humor doesn't make the serious subjects lighter. It makes it more digestible, like we said earlier. I think, like my colleague Mahfuz stated, that the war is going to continue and the death toll is going to rise. But what matters is that we create a place where people feel safe to be a part of the discourse. And, there's a lot of division, like you just mentioned in your question, especially right now with the war happening in the region. And I think it's an agenda that's being pushed upon to our people in the region. And so some people are, if we're discussing just the material and the humor, some people see it insensitive. But I actually say that it's the only way to get our message across, especially with the filtration system that's being placed on Meta, on TikTok. We saw it with the Israeli genocide on the Palestinian people. We've tried to just state the facts, and these videos are usually taken down. But when it's packaged in a way that is funny, it invites everybody to the conversation. Obviously, we cannot maintain a narrative that is not biased. Like, I cannot be objective, specifically being half Palestinian. But what I can do is make sure that the jokes that I'm portraying or posting on social media are coming from a place of truth and empathy. That's the responsibility I take as a comedian or someone posting on social media.
And I think, testament to that is the amount of followers that both of you have, the amount of likes and shares that you're getting. This is talking to people in what are extremely difficult and uncertain times, right? Well, now in the midst of all of this, we're also seeing some silver linings in times of uncertainty, with a generation of young people realizing they're actually more than their parents than they thought. You heard Saad mention Al Jazeera there, tuning into Al Jazeera's coverage. A lot of the young people that are always on their mobile phones now being dubbed the first in their line of descendants to see the screen split in 6 boxes and now actually all the way to 10 boxes if you're watching Al Jazeera Arabic. And that's been hailed as a milestone for many. It's also a sign of where people online are deciding to get their news in a time of crisis. Mahfuz, we were talking about mainstream media there. You were talking about the Western media. Of course, in the Arab world, Al Jazeera, whether you love it or hate it, when there is a war, a crisis of this, it is pretty much turned on in every single household, right? What would you say, though, your followers are getting from you that they may not find from the analysis that you get? For example, Al Jazeera isn't the mainstream Western media, right? But what are they getting from you that, for example, we are not offering?
Oh, okay. So I'll present it like this. Loads of people have come to me over the last 2 years, over the last 6 months especially, and said, Mahfuz, I love what you're doing because, Mahfuz, the way you're doing your videos, because it's so natural, it's casual, I make a big point of my videos being one take. So someone sees, I'll say something stupid or I'll misspeak. I just keep that in there. I don't have time to edit, I say. And I actually don't. I'm very busy. So I post that and they say that adds to the authenticity. It takes away from this sort of curated, falsely decorated impression, which takes away from authenticity. And you have to remember, this is at a time when the international community, the citizenry of the world, has just seen what experts, hundreds of genocide scholars have said to be a genocide. And then they look at the administrations, sometimes they look at the news outlets that are aligned with those administrations, especially in the Western world, and they think, well, hang on, why are you not calling it a genocide? Why are you beating around the bush for? And so when they come here, it's just a conversation that they're having with a mate, and it helps because the final thing I would add is what I bring to the table. I feel like I'm in an interview now. What do you bring to the table, Mahfuz? The final thing to add is the way I convey the news and answer the questions that people have on their mind, because it's so casual and conversational and one take, and without the bias, I claim, they can then go off to their friends, to their families, to their dawads and their motives where they go have a meal with the mates, and they can speak in the same way I speak. And they're like, Mahfuz, thanks, man. I'm the expert now. In my family group chat, as Saad would say, I'm the expert. They come to me, they're like, yo, give us the rundown. And he's like, hang on, let me go watch the video first. I'll be back. So I think that's what I bring to the table. I
was being devil's advocate because, we are like you say, the polished anchors, and we are filtered, right? We have to be, like you say, polished, looking straight. We can't just crack a joke when we're standing in Gaza or, so there is, so absolutely, I think there's value and such importance in what both of you do. Saad, I saw you nodding. How do you see it?
Yes. I would like to add something very important. I think just to reframe the question, I don't think it's that people trust social media more. I think they lost trust in institutions. And social media, if I may add to Mahfouz's point, does three things that mainstream media doesn't. One, it's immediate. You see the source of the content right away. Number two, it's unmediated. Basically, it doesn't go through filters before it arrives to the person watching it. And the most important point, I would say, is participatory. So basically, people are able to fact check now. And we saw it, for example, with the Epstein scandal. Every time something was released, people were becoming their own investigators, and we were getting more information before mainstream media was able to share that information with the world. Not that it got any headlines, to be honest, but that's what I wanted to add. And I think that's the power that social media has that mainstream media doesn't necessarily have.
And I think, because we've been debating this on the show, and like I'm part of that old school, I've been going into the field for 20 years, and now someone sitting in their living room is getting more credibility, more followers. And honestly, it's a genuine question that we ask, is it even worth going anymore, right? Because this is what people want these days. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. It's just a very interesting change in what used to be, a very, like both of you say, very organized, structured industry. Let me just play something, actually, before we continue this conversation. We've seen a lot of people criticizing influencers living in the GCC countries, saying that they've romanticized their evacuation and turned the journey into a sort of clickbait, multiple-part vlogs on Instagram. Now, here's one where things get more political.
And I'm actually so scared. I'm in JDC right now, and I can see... Oh, no. Not meant to be happening here. Can't everyone just chill out?
Reality check, sweetie. That's not supposed to be happening anywhere. War and conflict and violence and genocide is actually not supposed to be happening anywhere. What do you mean it's not supposed to be happening to you? Y'all are way too used to seeing brown and black and Arab and Muslims go through this insane level of trauma and violence every single day that you're now shocked that it's happening to you. Thousands of men, women and children in Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, Sudan, the Congo, Afghanistan, Libya, Iran, God, the list goes on, had to and still have to see this daily, and it's expected that they just accommodate and get themselves used to this level of violence.
Mahfuz, I will put that to you. I think also a lot of people don't realize the absolute privilege and luxury it is to hear those explosions, which are actually interceptors of an excellent air defense system that is being applied to intercept all the incoming, right? Which many places like Gaza and Lebanon, et cetera, do not have. Mahfuz, where would you say we are at a turning point, right? Geopolitically, everything seems so uncertain. How would you describe where we're at?
Oh, so I describe myself as a geopolitical analyst. So I'm looking at things really zoomed out at the strategic level, looking at the world stage and looking at all the countries as players in this great game. So that's a sort of analytical way of seeing things. And what I would say is there's chaos going on now because we are, according to many economists and people superior to myself, because I'm still part of the common citizenry. As I said, I'm not an academic in this space, but I like to remain well-read. We are entering, by the assessment of some, a new age globally. We're moving away from the age of unipolarity under America and the sphere of influence that America had that extends across the globe behind me. And we're entering what I call, because I have to sort of make it a little more interesting on my platforms. I call it the new age is the one of the dragon and the eagle, which is this era of bipolarity or multipolarity, where America is no longer this sole hegemon. It's now a more balanced world where America remains powerful and influential, but you have the likes of China leading a global south, and you have Europe deciding which way we're going to go, what we're going to do here, and the Middle East is obviously right now upended. So in this era, it's a lot more chaotic because you're going through a change, and stability doesn't necessarily mean justice. You can be quite stable with an army officer's a military jackboot on the neck of a civilian of a place that this military has come into and occupied. That's quite stable. As soon as the neck or the man who the neck belongs to rises up and shoves off this army officer, well, the whole situation's unstable now, isn't it? An army officer will be like, how dare you interrupt my comfortable boot upon your neck? And the guy will be like, that's my neck, my G. Get off. But that get off, that motion is going to cause chaos. So we're living through, I think, that time of a shift from unipolarity to multipolarity, and is got messy already. I would say it's likely to get a lot messier soon.
Saad, you're in the US. Before I come to you, it's been said that the internet is forever and that once a post or a video is uploaded or you say something, it's almost impossible to erase. And even if you forget, someone will make an edit and make it resurface. Now, these videos have been getting a lot of views this past week. Take a look.
They said, he will start a war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. I do not make this statement lightly. The Iranian regime seeks to kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. We don't need the wars, foreign lands, countries you've never heard of, countries that don't even want us there. No, we were crazy what we did. We had these endless wars that go on for 21, 22 years, spending billions and billions of dollars. Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective. So the only way he figures that he's going to get reelected, and as sure as you're sitting there, is to start a war with Iran.
Well, that was Trump talking to Barack Obama. Saad, do you have words to react to that?
Honestly, I'm not surprised, because you don't need to manufacture consent if it's been manufactured over decades. I think this is a colonial mindset that reeks through basically mainstream media. Like a great example of the situation was October 7 and the narrative of the beheaded babies, when former President Biden came out and said, I saw a video of them beheading babies, and that was already making headlines around the globe to greenlight a genocide. And even though it was redacted, the correction never travels as far as the headline when it comes to our region. And so I'm not surprised. I think this has been manufactured for a long time and accelerated after 9/11. And we are now dealing with the byproduct of that manufacturing.
Absolutely, you really hit a nail on the head there. Even if something comes out, and that particular report of beheaded babies, Biden said it, it was in the Israeli media, quoted, and then there was actually a retraction at some point publicly, and no one believed it. It was out there, the damage was done. There are so many conspiracy theories right now, right, floating around online. People are talking about this is a distraction. Mahfuz, I am going to you next. That this is a distraction for the Epstein files. A lot of talk about other reasons, what happened, why we got to where we are now. How do you view that? I will keep it a very generic question to you, Mahfuz.
Well, I think, Stefanie, if we zoom out, because I like zooming out, because from space, everything's peaceful, even during a world war, I imagine. From space, it looks quite quiet. And even Trump, who's on this roller coaster. Let's all go on a roller coaster together.
Can we stop him? Can we stop him? Because we would love to stop him.
You can't stop him. But if you zoom out, you actually see it's not as sporadic and crazy. He's on a trajectory. If you zoom out, you can see that he's on a gentle trajectory in a certain direction. He has goals and objectives. Maybe for Iran war, that's been a bit up in the air. But what I really want to touch on, Stefanie, is there's double standards when, as you showed, when Trump is saying a few years ago, I'm the man to end all wars. You know, there won't be any wars. I'm the best negotiator. Have you read The Art of the Deal? It's amazing. Like, that was him, and now he's in a war, right? So you think, okay, I just caught you out. The thing is, it's always been like that. It's just, before, people weren't recording it. People weren't stitching together videos because that was not an option that the common citizenry had. The common citizenry had the state tells the media this, and the media goes through its filter and its editorial policy, and then it hits the people, the citizenry, and they are informed. And if the media puts a spin on it, then when it hits you, you're spinning as well, and congratulations, you've been indoctrinated. Now the situation is different because social media has, as some people say, democratized, opened up the narrative. And I'm sure you're going to talk about how it's opened it up to misinformation, disinformation as well. But what I'm trying to say is here, politicians, heads of state, they're held to account more now than before. And that's actually having a very unique effect, especially, for example, in the Western countries, as Saad says. I'm sure he's a strong proponent of this idea that the Middle East and the people there are sort of a different category. In Europe, you know, we're built different. No, you're not built different. We're all built the same.
You're
the
just
thing
more
is, though,
privileged,
in
right?
Europe,
you have more opportunities.
there's
you're
more
privileged.
privilege.
Yeah.
There's more privilege. There's a colonial past. There's an expansionist ideology essentially baked in to the culture. And even in the West, I'm not, demonizing anyone. In the West here, where I live in London. I was born and raised in London. I see Westerners, quote unquote, from here who say, you know what, actually, I don't agree with my government. I don't like these double standards. I don't like the hypocrisy.
It's such an important voice that both of you have when it comes to humor, right? I think this is something that we all need so badly. Saad, I want to give you a quick final word. Aside from humor, what do you do to keep sane during these days, right? Like when you get anxiety, you're thinking of your family, you're from Kuwait, Palestine, everything that is happening around us and that, people are exposed to living it. Give some advice for people who are struggling.
Honestly, I would say faith. Faith is what got me through. And now during the holy month of Ramadan, we're asked to show patience. And it's very sad what our region has gone through, especially like in Palestine and now the Gulf countries that are affected by this war. I think about my family there. And faith gets me through it. And then after that, it's humor, being able to make light of a situation because, going back to that point, it's manufactured consent. And it's not even about which side versus the other side. It's about what has the West taught the Westerners about grief. Which people do we grieve and which people do we see as an inevitable byproduct of war?
Absolutely. What a point to end on. And which people do we grieve? I think really it does come down to that, right? Such disparity and when it comes to what we're seeing play out, what is accepted internationally and what is not. Mahfuz and Saad, thank you so much for joining us here on the stream today. It's been a fabulous discussion. And thank you for watching. From me and the entire fantastic stream team, I'll see you soon.